into the lower bracket to face up against Team 1 tonight. So if you lose this game, you have to play again immediately. No break, no downtime, no second chances, Tim. So you really want to come back in strong to the series if you are NIP here tonight.
No question about it. They want to push forward and try and get themselves that upper bracket matchup. And also it just keeps them always that one match being dropped out of the tournament. Let's not forget those two teams that will face off right after this match. We are bringing that for you as well. Another best of three between the two losers that we've seen so far in that lower bracket. And the loser there will go home. They will exit the tournament. No more chance for the $50,000 top prize. No more chance for the 285 top prize available of SI points. They will get what they have in fourth place and no more.
Oh, mate. It is so rough as well. Think about it. If you lose out at that point, you start to drop down into the lower bracket. You got the slog ahead of you. You got the long games. You have a late night tonight as well, and then an early start going into tomorrow. It just makes it so much harder to play your utmost into a competition like this. And obviously for NIP, they've got a lot to prove coming into this, Tim. You think about their historic performances, the eyes that are going to be on them as well from the global scene, right? Of obviously everyone that's seen them at SI knows the quality they provided there, and joins in thinking, where's that team? Where are they? If they get knocked out of the tournament into the lower bracket, that would be a ridiculous result. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We can speculate, but we prefer the hard-hitting facts and journalism. That's what we've been all about here throughout the regular season of LATAM, Tim. So why don't we wait and see what the players have to say for themselves inside of this map as we're going into Cafe Liquid. Starting off on the attack here. Instead, we have NIP on the defense.
I'm sure there are plenty of bold statements to be made from these players once we get underway. And as you say, NIP really need to be coming out with a strong start. If we have a look at what has gone before us in the regular season, NIP on the defense of Cafe have actually been very good. 75% win rates on all three of their chosen sites, which generally are bar and cocktail service, kitchen and reading fireplace, so no major surprises there. 75% win rate on all, so I would expect them to come out with a 4-2 half here. Anything less than that, I would say, is a success for Team Liquid, if anybody.
Absolutely. Definitely a fair assessment to make. And already, Tim, I was getting a little bit antsy there. When we cut to Palu's POV, I could see him just lurking around the tree, trying to see if he could bark up the right tree and find himself an initial opening pick. If anyone was going to be bold enough to peek out and try and swing for an early frag through one of the windows there, an initial spawn peek from NIP. But they're not going to go for it. It won't be what we saw back onto the previous time we had Cafe, of course, with that initial frag coming through. Because that one really did send chills down the spines of both of us. At least it's not going to happen here tonight.
Oh, it really set a tone, but no, we won't have it here. 5 versus 5, we still find ourselves 1 minute into the round, and reasonably slow start again. Generally speaking, I think the average for the league has been about 1 minute 20, 1 minute 23 for the opening kills. But I would suggest, given the importance of the matchup and the fact that both teams are playing reasonably slowly through the season, we will see that a little bit higher here today. We will see it more around the 130, 140 mark into these rounds. And right now, NIP, they are just trying to gather all the information they can. We can see them getting themselves on the cams there, seeing if there's any information to be picked up. Meanwhile, Liquid, they've got themselves dropped into red stairs and they are looking to assert their dominance. Palu will do so over Pino immediately. Headshot comes in and that is the early advantage. Doc is off the board. Not only an ACOG, but also those stim pistols going by the wayside, not to be used now for the remainder of this round. And they're aware now that there's a man in washroom. There always is. But the question is, what can they do about it?
Will he be making the round squeaky clean, or will he be cleaned out himself? That is going to be the big question mark that will be floating above their heads at this point. Psycho. Response on the Org as he tries to just take those little jiggle peeks bit by bit, swinging out, hoping to do something outrageous into the round, but they're not giving him any potential opportunities. Instead, those opportunities are being gifted to the side of Liquid, all off the back of one man, Palu. He's arrived looking like the harbinger of death, and he is utilizing that G360 as some form of scythe, beheading everyone that peeks into him, picking up frag after frag and shutting down the momentum for NIP. Talking of momentum, Muzi jumps over the banister like an acrobat, gets a little bit scared as his heart will spring up into his mouth, spotting out Palu's Iana as it charges up close against him, takes it down, but just relays the information back over to Liquid. And talking of info, it's working well as they are shattering the brains and leaving them spread out on the floor here for NIP. The Grey Gears are not turning very well for NIP into the game, but at least the response is there as it comes back into a 1 versus 2. Muzi. The banister, he wins it! The timing comes through, Tim! The difference a second will make as they peek round the back of the bookshelf. They spot out Muzi down on the deck, holding his own with his heart pounding in his chest. He wins the round off the back of the clock.
A round that realistically NIP had absolutely no right winning there. There were 2 versus 4 towards the end of things, but ultimately, once again, Liquid just not moving quick enough to get themselves into a planting position, and that was the problem for them. Muzi able to just burn the time. 7 seconds left on the clock. We can see on the replay there, gets himself a huge double and then just cannot be challenged in time. And this is what we keep saying, when those executes get left down to the last 10 seconds, it becomes problematic because all it takes is a big play from a player like Muzi. And we know that players like Muzi, Pino, and many on the other side, Palu, Nesk, they have those big plays in them to close out rounds.
When they need to show up most, that's when they tend to, and the stars are clearly aligning. In terms of the player speculation from everyone in the chat, though, it seems like there is a lot of Liquid fans in the house tonight, and they are making some noise for Team Liquid. 71% of the vote coming through believes that Team Liquid will lock it down on Cafe, and you know what? Right now, obviously, NIP, they've got something to try and answer for. They come through with the opening round, although it was very tight and it felt like they weren't going to win it. That 29% is definitely going to have a sigh of relief based off the back of that last second clutch tip, just locking himself down and dropping to the floor.
And that's a big round for NIP because previously on the attack, Reading and Fireplace has been Team Liquid's best attacking side. Everywhere else, they are 50% or less. So, you know, they win 1 out of 2 at best. So, coming away with the win there, where generally they've had 5 out of 7 overall, so 71%. Much, much better for Team Liquid on that side. So, that's a bit of a gamble for NIP to take that in round 1, but to come away with it, what a coup that is. It puts 1 on the board, and it gives them now 2 sites back to back that they don't have to play in there. And they can play on sites where historically Team Liquid have struggled more on the attack. So, perfect start for NIP.
A hell of a way to start off the game, of course, and it does mean they're going to have a little bit more confidence as well. And they needed something, Tim, some sort of lifeline, some kind of adrenaline to spike them up a little bit and get them excited. And that's just what that round will be. You can imagine the collective sigh that would have echoed through the TeamSpeak once they saw it pop up, the NIP winning the round text. As soon as that timer ran out, because man, you would have just been sat there on the edge of your seat, terrified about taking a bullet to the leg, a bullet to the face, anything that would have ended you in that situation.
If I were Team Liquid, my biggest concern at the minute would be Muzi, given that last round of performance. His eyes lit up like a child on the birthday where he came down over that white stairs balustrade and had the back of Iana in front of him, but unfortunately for him, it was just one of the decoys. He still managed to make a huge impact on the round, and he finds himself 2-0. And a player like Muzi, if he can start hitting shots and getting kills under his belt, is the sort of player that will just propel you over the line in short time. He will not mess about, and you'll find yourself 15 kills behind to him before you know it. And so Team Liquid need to be very careful of that. They can't let Muzi get his head up and start to get the wind in his hair.
Oh, mate, talking about Muzi, you invoke his name, and that means he is going to show up and start to do spectacular things. He is a bit of a bruiser. Right now, he's covered himself in butter, and he is looking to run in to take on every single one of the Team Liquid security team. He wants to overpower them, deck them in the head, and do some damage to him. Serves up success on the first, but the trade comes back through as Palu will pop off, cleaning up another man and decimating Pino, keeping the game close into a 4 versus 4. However, Muzi with the Org, still just brutalizing them. He's like a human blender, as he's grinding them all down to a pulp, leaving it just up to Moringa and Palu now in such a horrendous position. This round is getting out of hand, but Moringa, with his gun firmly in hand, strikes back, eliminating Psycho. Bullets from the sideline, but he flicks, finds the headshot onto Muzi. 1 versus 2, but no time, and that is the big picture. 2 rounds in a row. They haven't looked at their stopwatch. They haven't kept the comms clear. They haven't pushed in with the timing, and they've lost both of these rounds purely off of the staggering defense that's come out from NIP, wasting time.
Muzi and Kamikaze both having a double for themselves on the round there. Great to push them over the line. Muzi, as I say, starting to look really dangerous now, just picking kill up after kill. And if that is allowed to continue, it is going to be a tough day for Team Liquid. He is turning into a maelstrom at the center of this map, and all around him are just going to be sucked into that dangerous vortex of kills that he will start dishing out all over the map.
It's ridiculous. Honestly, you look at how Muzi's playing right now, and it just looks like he is a T-Rex that has been dropped in with fluffy white kittens, and they have no response.
The carnage, Jackie. The carnage.
Mate, honestly, it's not going to be nice. It is not going to be a pretty sight to behold, Tim.
I mean, are the kittens moving? Or can they maybe keep themselves safe on that basis?
You know, I mean, look, at least, you know, the beneficial factor is obviously for a T-Rex, turn in circle's not great. If the kittens were to build some kind of kitten-based blockade and could trip him over, they would win.
Turning circle of an oil tanker. Absolutely no question about it. That's the sort of, you know, if you're driving a T-Rex, you've got to be thinking 20 minutes ahead of yourself, Jackie.
just in case, you know, you never know. Someone runs out in front of the road whilst you're mounting that T-Rex.
If you haven't turned 15 minutes before, they're getting run down. Forget about it.
Right, it would honestly be a nightmare. It's why you don't actually see T-Rexes on the road too much these days, Tim. They've been phased out, obviously, just because they're not really efficient in terms of turning or slowing down.
My immediate response to that was, well, they'd probably struggle to reach the steering wheel. Hey!
There he is.
There he is. But then I remember we were talking about them actually being the vehicles.
Yeah, that's true. You know, you're up on top with the reins. There you go, Tim. So, someone get on that. Draw a picture of Tim in MS Paint riding a T-Rex into an army of kittens.
With reins.
Of course.
That is the control method of choice, obviously.
Oh, mate, it's the only one they respond to. It's the preferred method for driving T-Rexes, I believe. It's what the government does prefer you to do. But we'll rein this one back in for now, Tim, as we are coming up towards the 2-minute mark. And the T-Rexes of NIP, they're hungry for a feeding right now. Much like Jurassic Park, they're looking to really turn this one into something to remember. Make it a bit of a blockbuster and do some damage going into the 3rd round. For Team Liquid, though, it's slow and steady. They're just slowly making their moves, utilising the drone phase and running down that clock. They've had a couple of awkward encounters into the previous round, so of course, they're not going to go overly aggressive. Normally, this is where you'd see Nesk and Palu just charging in, finding opening picks, but losing out 2 rounds based off NIP just playing slow, surely they've got to give their head a wobble soon, Tim, because this is not looking like the Liquid team that we know and love.
Julio has done ranked Valkyrie players a service up and down the country there, just seeing a very nice cam placed under the train, and if that's not one that you've used previously, I'd suggest in your ranked games coming up that you look underneath that train, because I think you're going to be seeing quite a few cams placed under there, especially for this kitchen site. It was a great one there to feed information once the attackers get themselves into train, and that is exactly what has happened now. Moringa's going to be opening up the floor, but they need to be very alert and alive to danger potential coming in from Pino with the nitro in hand. Julio as well. Obviously the cam is gone now, so a little bit less information, but once they know that the angles are being opened up, those nitros will still rain towards the ceiling, and they will try to open somebody up as quickly as they can if possible. It will be a little bit pot luck at that point, but when the rounds are going in your favour, quite often those throws will do as well.
But to win rounds, you've got to hit your rounds that are coming out of your firearms. And right now, who's going to be on point to hit those shots as the bait players utilize Palu sending in the drone to try and cause some mischief, looking like low-key. But the one that's low-key popping off is going to be Pino, coming through with not 1 but 2 frags. There's the 3rd as well, as he switches down to the revolver, and he's effectively a revolving door, Tim, denying everyone entry. That's now a quad kill, and over the banister goes Moringa as he gets shot in the side of the head by Julio, cleaning up on the Valkyrie as he will attack and annihilate, dispatching the man and dropping him over the stairwell.
We know that Julio's got it in his locker. We've seen it from him a number of times over the season, whether it be with the nitros or whether it be with a gun in his hands, he will find a way. That is what Julio does. We've seen it on Villa a number of times, Jackie, where he locks himself into the piano room with Goyo underneath, and we've seen him hit 3s and 4s in there all day long, and comes out with a huge round for his team again there. We're going to have Ness dropping out, so we'll be looking to come for a quick rehost. You'll get the pleasure, or it might not be a pleasure, of mine and Jackie's faces, but we'll be back with you in a short second. And just while we get everybody back into... We've not done too bad for those technical difficulties so far, Jackie, only the second on the night there. And what a performance we're seeing from NIP so far.
Mate, honestly, it's been incredible to witness, right? We're seeing these players that come out, for what it was as well, the first 2 rounds, just bizarre in the manner of which they were won as well. Literally just burning time, and effectively, you know, like when the clock changed, Tim, and it goes over to daylight saving times, right? And obviously you see the clock just rapidly turn around. That's effectively what NIP are doing. They're just burning time with the clock, speeding it up every time, and somehow winning literally off the back of just staying alive. We've seen that slow style all throughout the season, but the fact it's working to another level here is just surprising.
It really is. You know, it's exactly what we have seen out of LATAM. I can't stress that enough for the people watching. This doesn't come as a huge surprise to us. We have a team come in and dominate the first map, and then it just gets flipped on its head in the second. We've been playing best of 2s throughout the season, but here, of course, it's best of 3. So one way or another, we will find a winner. And right now, NIP, they are looking like potential winners of this second map. There is absolutely nothing that Team Liquid seem to be able to do to slow them down or to take the sting out of what NIP is bringing to this map right now. They're just winning gunfights left, right, and centre. They just cannot break down the defence.
No, they can't. They can't at all, Tim. That actually did remind me as well, Tim. There's been a couple of instances where that's happened, actually, where I've walked into the kitchen. You know, obviously, when the clocks do change over, if you're not quite aware, if you're not paying attention, all of a sudden you start seeing that manual clock just start spinning around rapidly. I've been panicked quite a few times and wondered if I'm just having like a weird, bizarre lucid dream or if I'm just living in The Shining.
Well, where it's just spinning round to change its time because the clocks have gone back.
It's
have you got one of the ones that
up.
are like done by the internet, so it changes automatically? Is it one of those fancy clocks?
It might be. I don't know. It's a little wind-up boy.
I
it
hope
just goes
it
on
is.
the wall. Yeah. Well, unless it's just
if
possessed.
You're going in, Jackie, and it's spinning round to change time, I seriously hope it is.
Right. I don't know. It's somehow been able to work. You know, its gears are clearly turning, Ace. But do you want to get your gears turning, mate?
Always for a piece of that.
All right, we're ready for a bit of a different taste into this one. Rehost Riddle coming up, of course. If you're unfamiliar, get ready, strap in for this one. Bit of a brain teaser on this one. This one, a little bit more enjoyable, Tim. It's one that I've picked up for you. Why was the chicken forbidden from sending email?
The chicken forbidden from sending email.
Yeah.
Now... That's a tough one, Jackie, because it's the answer, I'm certain, is going to be a play on words.
Right.
And I'm thinking around the chicken element. And I'm thinking around potential problems with email. And for any sort of crossover there, I'm thinking about the, the Venn diagram. Where's the crossover there between chicken and email
chart,
problem? And it's not a diagram that's springing to mind, Jackie. I think you've got me on that one.
Have you been stumped?
I have.
All right, Tim, I'll give you the answer.
We get into the major and I'm doing terrible. I'm like 60-40 on the season or something. I've done quite well, but here in the major, it's an absolute nightmare for me so far.
Mate, the major rehost riddles catching your guards. And
I think you've upped the difficulty. You've took it up to 11.
So. Potentially so. I'll give you the answer for it, Tim. Why was the chicken forbidden from sending emails? Because he kept using foul language.
Hey, there it is. And it was worse than I ever could have imagined.
Oh, mate. I thought you'd be on board for that one. I thought you'd enjoy that one. I thought that was, right up your street.
To be fair, Jackie, I told you a few jokes before we came onto the broadcast. They were quick, punchy one-liners. And, yeah, I'm all about that. I'll take that one.
That's what we live for. That's what we like here. Those big, punchy puns. I don't know. But we do enjoy it.
Focus in, Jackie. Come on. Focus in.
Honestly.
We're in this one for the long haul.
Oh, yeah, we still got quite a few games left to go here tonight. Potentially a whole nother map to come out just in this series alone. If NIP can go on and carry on with the level of siege that they are serving up to us. They've already got 3 rounds on the board. Can they keep that going to have a very dominant opening half here on Cafe and clean up against Team Liquid? If they win this one on Cafe, we're going to the third and final map, and we will have a decider on Clubhouse, which will be a rematch from, of course, what we saw back in the regular season, Tim. So that would be a banger.
It certainly would be, and we know in the season, as you say, it went 6-all, and surely we can't end up in that position again, Jackie. Can we really find ourselves round 15, map 3, 1v1, with one of the players ready for an ace and only one bullet left in the chamber, so he ultimately loses it? For anybody who missed out, that is not even a made-up scenario. That is how good the Siege has been today. That was map 1, FaZe versus Team 1. We find ourselves map 3, round 15, max level overtime. Lukid vaulting over a fallen bookshelf in a 1 versus 1 right here on Cafe, and he lost it to Yuna because he only had one bullet left in the mag.
Honestly, it was a ridiculous position to be in. It all happened so quickly. It was just carnage and crazy, crazy pace incarnate. And talking of pace, they're really starting to step this one up as they kick the tempo up towards 11 at this point. And here comes Julio, the man that quite literally eats TNT for breakfast in the mornings, getting a bit dastardly with the detonations as he'll chuck out the nitro and blow away another man. C4 on your door, you won't be breathing no more if Julio's the one that comes a knocking. And they are certainly knocking loud into this round. 1 minute and 20 seconds left to work with here for Liquid. They're down to the 4 versus 4. Capitao of Sexy Cake has been removed, and Pino on the dock has been locked down as well, leaving it just up to the 8 remaining operators that are alive and kicking here to defend the Cafe up against the oncoming Liquid lunatics that are starting to up the ante. Changing this one around a little bit more. You've got the Skylight Peak coming through as well from Moringa, just lurking over the edge whilst the rest of the team is down on ground level, working their way in with the triple threat, essentially a wolf pack over by Cigars. And Muzi, he's honed into that angle, Tim. He's ready for a splay down. He wants to hit them with a lay down if they come pushing out.
Big round here for NIP and the game as a whole, in my opinion. This is Team Liquid's real opportunity to get around on the board. We've seen them most successful here. Palu coming in with a triple kill now, and they continue to rein in. Ness gets one for himself onto Julio. We find Kamikaze, 1 versus 4. There are 2 operators on low health on the side of Team Liquid, Palu and Nesk, but surely that is not going to be enough to swing things here. We have the man moving in, and that will be diffuser down. I thought that was a second. I got baited by the on a decoy there. I was going to shout that one out, but no, it was just a well-placed decoy coming in, revealing the location of the man, and that is going to be round finish for Team Liquid. And as I was saying before that phase of action kicked off, that was a round that Team Liquid needed. Their best attacks have come on reading, and if NIP were able to take that a second time and put themselves on 4-0, that would have been a massive blow for Team Liquid, and by contrast, a huge boost for NIP in towards the half. They could easily have gone on to 5-1, 6-0 at that point. So Team Liquid really needed that one on the board. They need to use it as a springboard here. They need to come out and take themselves a really classy sort of dive into the rest of these 2 rounds on the half and get themselves some more before they find themselves 5-1 down.
Oh, mate. Well, that's the issue with the type of establishment they're attempting to attack upon, Tim. This isn't your local dive bar. This isn't a Greg's you're walking into where you can just smash and grab your way for some sausage rolls. You're going into a prestigious cafe with the finest security that money can buy. NIP, they have dumped fat stacks into defending this location, and it is looking like a easy affair when it comes to holding Team Liquid back. They try and run in. They've been shut down at the front entrance. They try and play a slow round. They're getting overpowered. You finally got one on the board to the 1-3 scoreline, but is it repeatable? Can you do that enough times? Can you really have Palu getting a 4K into every one of these rounds? How likely is it that that is going to be a sustainable outcome where you'll be able to excel? And how likely is it that the security team of NIP is going to do some damage? Because right now it looks like they are being a bit bold and brash as well. We saw the spawn peak in play there. We haven't had a frag off the back of it. Not quite sure if we will see contact or if he has given up from the angle he was facing. It looks like he has run back at this point. So no fireworks to start us off just yet on round 5.
30 seconds into the action phase, and So far, Pino, I'm going to pick him out and say I can't criticise him. He's done extremely well on the entry throughout the season, but here on Cafe, he's not having the best day of it. He's lost himself in those opening battles a couple of times, and really it becomes a roll of the dice. If you're going to put yourself at a man disadvantage against a team like Team Liquid, you're always offering them up the opportunity to close that round out. So Pino could just do with having a little bit more success, or maybe even dipping away from those entry fights for the time being. If his shot is just not quite landing here on Cafe, maybe allow somebody else like a Muzi to step up and take those early entry fights and see if the NRP can just get themselves an advantage coming into the rounds rather than falling on the back foot.
Round 5 here then. A minute and 40 seconds on the clock now as Pino playing the angles game and waiting for the peak to come around as he peers over the crevasse there, honed in with that scope on top of the gun, waiting for the peak and someone to reveal themselves so he can see them wincing as he distributes bullets towards them. No one's going to take him up on that offer just yet, though, as instead Team Liquid making full use of the timing, utilising those drones to get as much information as physically possible. Sexy Cake as well, tearing down the barricades. No reason to charge in and get up close and personal because, of course, you'd expect Muzi would be waiting behind that shield ready to strike back. Difference is this time, they're actually turtling way further back, playing grouped up and ready for the push to come in. They're not actually being too bold at all.
And with only 50 seconds left on the clock, this is slow even by the standard set so far in this match, which has seen the opening kills coming generally around the 1 minute 30 to 2 minute mark. But we are way beyond that at this point, and 5 versus 5 is going to lead to only one thing, and that's going to be an absolute bloodbath in the dying seconds. We can see early contact now found there, a little bit of an exchange between Nesk and I think it was probably Julio there on the Valkyrie. So Nesk, he's going to dip away from that one for the time being. Palu looks like he's had a little bit of back and forth with Muzi as well. Pino's going to juice himself up. Psycho taking big damage, but right now Team Liquid need to get moving. The only thing to get moving is the his gun, finding PSK and Sexy Cake. Nesk manages to win out that battle on the mid floor, but ultimately the kills are all sliding in one direction here, and that is the direction of NIP. And with only 1 second left to go, that timer ticks away, and that is going to be the third round now that NIP have won by simply protecting the bombs for 3 minutes and Liquid being unable to move quickly enough through them. And interestingly, this is a real contrast, Jackie, to the last time we saw these two teams play, because this was a problem that NIP had against Team Liquid.
It's crazy. The shoe is completely on the other foot at this point. And it is ridiculous, Tim, because we touched on it. And a lot of those issues that we said about NIP back then are quite literally what is causing Liquid to lose out on the game now. We've touched on how slow they're playing. And yeah, you can play that slow style of Siege, and it does work quite well if you're still capitalizing, if you're still forcing out utility and getting yourself into a good position to do damage in the late round. Instead, for Liquid here, they're just starving themselves out. Eventually, when they do decide to go for the push, they've not actually baited out much utility. They've not caused any openings that will later on be useful for them, Tim. So you then go into a late round execute where they have all of the smoke canisters in the world, they've got all of their nitro, they've got all of the utility and gadgets they could hope for stockpiled and ready to be utilized, and they still have a manpower advantage. It's not as if they're playing that slow style of split and pick and getting picks. Liquid are just burning the clock down and then charging into the unknown and leaving themselves not only fighting an uphill battle, but fighting an uphill battle blindfolded. That's what it feels like into a lot of these rounds. And they have felt the wrath of the clock 3 times now. 3 times they've timed out effectively.
One thing that I will say is that NIP needed this start, because Liquid previously on Cafe, we've seen plenty of them. We've seen them play here 4 times, and they have been consistently very, very good on the defense of Cafe. They have got a 100% win rate down in service and kitchen. They have got 60+% win rates, reading fireplace and bar and cocktail. So you would expect that a majority of rounds will go in their favour. So if we argue that that is 4-2 on the half potentially, there is a bit of wiggle room. We've seen them beaten on the mid and top floor sites. So there is arguably rounds there for NIP to find on the attack. So let's say 4-2. NIP, therefore, need to be coming out with a 5-1 here if they want to be winning map 2 without it having to go to overtime. So whilst this looks fantastic for them right now and is a great start, and I won't argue that it's not. They've played very well. Liquid completely unable to get into things, as you say, unable to play that timer really, just not managing to get themselves into an executable position. NIP have got a tough second half coming up against Team Liquid on the defense. But looking towards round number 6, we are going to be attacking onto Kitchen. And generally speaking, there are 2 major attacks that we will see, and that is much lesser seen now would be the push towards Freezer side. That tends to be if absolutely necessary, so we won't worry about that too much. Generally, the primary take is to get yourself control of Bakery prep, open up the wall between Bakery and the kitchen site, and then move in and get the diffuser planted in that default spot, just in the protection of the grills. And along with that, it's usually about clearing in top and mid floor, which has happened here. Moringa is in position beautifully there, and he's going to start opening up some vertical angles. We can just see PSK is potentially going to apply a little bit of pressure by opening the freezer hatch there. For anybody who doesn't know, a Kaided hatch, if it is in soft floor, you can put the thermite charge next to it. It blows the hatch as well. And that is going to allow access to the freezer. And that just now means NIP have got to watch 2 directions. Smart move from Team Liquid.
Again, here's the scary factor though. You glance at the clock, you see 50 seconds left and you see it ticking away. You glance at either side here and see that there's 5 players alive and kicking. 10 players in total still, with no blood being spilt into the server. The only encounter and the only contact we've seen was off the back of shots being rained into an Iana drone that's really not going to do much in the grand scheme. Pala will have available to him relatively soon and can once again use it as a recon play to scout information. You've got the 2-player setup here from NIP as well. Previously, they had free reign when this push came in. This time, though, the lineup with the nades are very effective, and Pino dropped down to the ground. Luckily, the stim pistol will be utilized to get him back up, but will he be up in time to fight back? Yes! He slays! He cuts his way through 2 of them. The Dockers saved the day, as that was the clutchest revive we've seen throughout the series tonight, bringing him back from death to save the bacon of Team Liquid. Oh, Tim, Moringa coming through. He got the backstab off of both Julio and Kamikaze. It seemed like NIP had played it to perfection, but they were still going to be overthrown. But it all about the timing. They're executing so late into the round. By the time he had pushed out, he found 2 frags, but that's 2 frags that aren't going to matter. They're not impact kills. They won't win you around. They're not the commodity you direly need, and they direly need rounds at this point. It's 5-1, Tim.
Great plays from Pino there, just stemming the onrushing tide that was Team Liquid, managing to get himself back to his feet and then start challenging, and it could not have been better timed, and I think that's really what stalled out the whole round for Team Liquid. If that doesn't happen, they are in sight with plenty of time to look at and execute, rather than finding Moringa scratching for kills in the last couple of seconds there and unable to find as many as he needed. But that is a good opening half for NIP here, but do not be surprised to see Team Liquid run this one at least a majority, if not all of the way back in. They've been very good previously on the defense here, and they have shown great capability. If we look at the attack for NIP, they have 100% win rate on Service Kitchen, but other than that, 30% on Reading Fireplace, and the same again Bar and Cocktail. So given the historic stats at least, you start to wonder where the rounds might come from. If they need 2 successful rounds, I could argue they could find them both in Kitchen, but given the success of Team Liquid on defense, I would expect them to at least defend Kitchen successfully once, and that leads us towards a draw potentially.
I can't believe, Tim, it's effectively happened over the space of 4 rounds now. Oh, it's such a shame as well, because you can see the signs of it happening when they're going for these late round executes with quite literally about 45 seconds left to attempt to work with, and they just get overpowered. The crossfires of NIP at that point are just far too effective. They're playing the trade game to perfection, quite literally looking like children in the school ground trading Pokemon cards. They are coming away with some big pickups. They have literally got themselves a first edition Shining Charizard, Tim, there, off the back of giving away a Cloyster. It has been wild, the level of trade game they have been playing here on the NIP side.
And it's been a big part of a perfect start for them. They only managed to drop 1 round to Team Liquid on the attack. And interestingly, they're taking slightly different tack here. But Clash is always going to win out against the Montagne. Because for those who don't know, the electricity of Clash will damage Montagne through his shield regardless. So they can just face off against each other all day long. And the best that Monty can do is turn the Clash around and hope to create a situation whereby his teammate can pick her off. But right now, great understanding of that exact mechanic being shown by Sexy Cake. Half damage done to the Montagne already nearly, and she will just continue doing that, the Clash. It will continue on as long as the Monty stands in front of Sexy Cake. Julio opens things up with a kill onto Moringa, but Sexy Cake ultimately, he will drop himself back down to that mid floor and just live to fight another day with a lot of damage done to the Montagne.
All right, well, here we go, though. We have seen another frag being found as well from Julio on the Capital, proving to be quite the captain of the ship of NIP at this point, as he is sailing it towards victory in the series. If they get this round, that will be the overtime at least confirmed here for NIP at a bare minimum, and then they'll be 1 round away from potentially pushing this to a victory if they can get that 7th round off the back of it. Now, they've done a lot of damage as well as getting that opening pick. You can see that, of course, Sexy Cake on the Clash. She's been left some road rash, not feeling too healthy even, and Finesse, he's taken quite a bit of a hit as well, dropping him down to about 50 HP onto the next encounter. Monty now, he's had that diffuser in his back pocket this entire time. He can drop it down, and he can quite literally rule the roost here, sit on top of the diffuser, and just act as a human body shield, a wall to block their pathway into the site. The triple threat coming around, though, of Palu, PSK, and Sexy Cake, they start to roam further forward, and the Wolf Pack is actually working well. They're cleaning up on towards the site as they find a couple of frags. They down Kamikaze. There is a response back from Pino, spamming into the rear, gets the shot, connecting into the back of PSK, but Palu, he's just jumping on it. He's just going for the diffuser play, comes off it, smart read as he'll find the flick across, but Monty will shut it down. Gets one onto Palu. There's the trade back from Pino as well with the SMG as Clash, yeah, she's been a nuisance, but she's not actually going to find herself the frag. Tried to go for the quick turn to bust out the SMG, but is shot in the back of the noggin and dashed down to the ground. NIP get themselves to that 6th round, Tim. 1 away from taking it as a 7-1 victory.
Fantastic round for Psycho on the Montagne there. Just seeing the opportunity to move into sight and get that diffuser down. 9 people still alive at that point in time. And you've just got to think that maybe Team Liquid haven't taken their eye off the ball there. I would say more that NIP took their eye away from the ball. They created so much noise on that top floor and kept fighting that it just allowed the sneak plant in there, the stealth diffuse to come in from the Montagne, and there was nothing that Liquid could do about it because they were just tied up in knots up on that top floor in different gun battles left, right and centre. And great plays there, a good read from NIP, and that takes away one of Team Liquid's best sites from them, but not their best. This is the best now, and this is the point that Team Liquid need to dig their heels in. We have not seen them beaten when they have defended Kitchen previously, and that is over 6 defenses, so they are extremely competent down here. But right now, NIP, they just look like an absolute machine.
What type of machine would they be, Tim?
At the minute, I would have suggested some sort of quarry-based industrial rock crusher. You know, one of the real big ones that just crushes rocks. Like you throw a massive boulder in there and it just disintegrates it. Something like that, as I said. That's exactly what NIP look like right now.
I feel you. God, what, like some kind of excavator?
Yeah, I think that's probably what you call it, yeah.
There you go. The excavators, as they are building themselves a divot into the game now with a 6-1 score.
It was a bit anticlimactic, Jackie, if I'm honest.
To be fair, you know, that's the thing about building quarries. Unless you're using TNT, they're quite anticlimactic.
Little divot at the side of the road. I think they've done a bit more damage than that at this point, Jackie.
All right, at least the hole.
This is a scar on the landscape.
Ooh, there you go. That's irrecoverable at this point. Nature will never heal from the damage that NIP have done here into this game on Cafe. These 6 rounds have been that impactful that they have done a fair amount of damage to the ground beneath them here on Cafe Dostoyevsky. But what more can they do? And how many scars can they leave Team Liquid with off the back of this one, Tim? As they just need one more round. That's all that's required to lock it down, and we are seeing the firefights coming through. Palu, as he takes his push up the stairway, cleans up on Muzi with the shotgun. He'll connect the adjustment, and there is damage all across the board being served up. Moringa on the Valkyrie, that's a heavy hit, and there's the follow-up tag that will earn it into a frag, as he will be dropped down to the ground. And now balance is really lying in question. We're into a 4 versus 4 here with a minute and 15 seconds still on the clock. Psycho is low on the Zofia, but it is still a 4 versus 4.
Right now, this one is evenly poised. We can see the challenge coming in there. There's only ever going to be one winner on the short angle like that, and that is Palu on the shotgun. Pino, however, manages to get onto Nesk meanwhile, and this one just bounces back and forth at this point. 3 versus 3. We find ourselves with 50 seconds left on the board, and NIP, unless they get themselves moving, could find themselves in the same position that Team Liquid struggled with, and that is the clock working against them. 40 seconds left, and no major avenue into sight yet. We can see that the wall from Bakery is still reinforced and electrified. The nades are starting to rain down from above, but the NIP attack, the assault at the minute, is all limited to vertical pressure. But what more pressure do you need as Psycho removes the head from PSK's shoulders, and that now leaves us 3 versus 2. Sexy Kick has Nitro in hand, but starts taking big shots. Can he detonate? Not in time. They will escape, and he will lose his life. 10 seconds left to go. Palu steps into the breach, gets the kill onto Pino. 1 versus 2, gets himself another. Can he do this? We've seen him do it before. This will be an ace for Palu. Psycho is on seriously low health. 1 second left to go. Palu, he doesn't need to chase the stats. He doesn't need the ace. He needs the round. He knows what's important to Team Liquid, and he keeps himself safe, out of danger, and locks out the round. That's a 1 versus 3 clutch. That's nearly an ace. That's a huge round from Palu.
Mate, Palu, that's who comes through, just busting down the doors and starving off at least NIP for the minimum of another round. But that's all that is. The potential isn't gone. The likelihood of them winning this game isn't gone. This doesn't end the reign of terror of NIP. A team that have effectively been looking like a combine harvester because they have been ploughing into this matchup, Tim. They have been leaving divots all across the land, and Team Liquid at least bounce back. They reign supreme into one encounter. Palu playing smart, playing off the timing, rotating off and staying alive after getting the double tap with the shotty. Lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels. A beautiful clutch to keep them in the game. But of course, the question still remains, will they be able to keep themselves alive? We do have another poll coming through. This was at a 5-1 split on the scoreline. Of course, we're now at 6-2. 31% believe that Liquid will come back to win it here on the second map. Instead, we have 69% of the vote favoring the Ninjas in Pyjamas, and that's not surprising. They're 1 round away from living the high life, living their movie here on Cafe, and locking down the game.
Like I said, that round is not even a problem to them. That is the 7th time that we have seen Liquid in this season successfully defend Kitchen on Cafe. They are unbeaten there, and I'm sure that NIP will know that. They'll have the information. They'll have the stats to hand. They'll know how good Team Liquid are on the defense down there on the ground floor site. But they will be looking towards this round now. Bar and Cocktail, it has not been pretty overall. Generally about a 60% win rate for Team Liquid up here, so there are certainly rounds to be taken here. The question is, can NIP do it? Can they get themselves over the line here? This is something that we've seen them struggle with over the season, Jackie, sometimes has been getting themselves over the line, whether that be in individual rounds or whether it be in complete maps or a best of 2 series. Just been a little problem for them, and if they're going to come through and win this major, that is something that they need to address. They need to be able to close these games out.
Man, you do. You've got to finish games. You get yourself to a position where you're 1 round away every time, but you choke it, you are going to be kicking yourself. Of course, that potential outcome is still miles away here, as the buffer that NIP have built themselves is so miraculously big. They would have to concede so many rounds in the spin that the likelihood of it is relatively marginal. However, that doesn't mean there isn't a chance for Liquid. It just means they're certainly going to have to step it up and go back to looking a little bit more like what we saw on Coastline, where the confidence was there, where they were springing to the step, where they were actually being able to go toe-to-toe and keep the game looking exciting. Here on Cafe, it really has been the NIP show for a lot of these rounds, and although Liquid have been hitting their shots and being able to go blow for blow on the trades, they haven't been able to win a good majority of the rounds, purely off the back of timing. Obviously now, that timing is what's saving them, Tim, as we saw Palu, of course, winning that round purely by the bell being rung at the last possible second. Coming into this round here, though, we've got about a minute left to work with. Not a single frag has been found. Again, an early stalemate that has come out. NIP, they'll be getting contact relatively soon. They've utilized the Monty as a huge recon tool to push round onto the corridor and get that information off the back of where exactly they're playing. What comes next is, can NIP hit their shots?
And that's all that's left for them to do. If they can achieve that, then ultimately, yes, the round is likely to be theirs, as is the map, and we go all the way to the third. And I've just thought about what that third map is, Jackie, and Clubhouse right now seems like an absolutely mouth-watering prospect.
Oh, mate, talking of mouth-watering, the players are starting to get interested. As Liquid will be licking their lips with the way the game has gone. Psycho's been down, Pino has been bludgeoned and left as a mere stain on the ground, and that seems to be the call that's happening across the board. They need to sprint in to grab the diffuser, or the game is going to be over anyhow. Capital hanging on a wire, but he will drop. The rope will snap and he will fall to his demise. It's like a very unfortunate day of going base jumping. As he hits the deck, he'll break his legs, and the round will again over to Liquid. Slowly but surely starting to come back here on their defense. Now 3 rounds away from tying it up.
So far, so good for Team Liquid in the last couple of rounds. They got themselves into a position where there was no room for mistakes anymore. If they want to get themselves off the server quickly today and get towards a rest overnight before that upper bracket match tomorrow, they need to be winning this one here on Cafe, and the only way they can achieve that is to fight all the way back now. They have lost their 1 round on defense that they can possibly afford to lose. They have to fight all the way back to 6 to get it to overtime, and then they will have a chance. You could never write Team Liquid off. You can never put it past them. They have the players who can do it, with Simpalu absolutely popping off so far. 14-3. He is going absolutely massive. But what we're seeing on the opposite side of things is just a much more team-based effort, Jackie. They are just really locking things down. Don't forget, we've had a rehost, so there is probably a few extra kills for a number of the players here. But 14-3 since that rehost is ridiculous. And what we're seeing from, by contrast from NIP, is just more of a team-based game. There's kills spread across all of the players, playing very well. The comms are obviously hot at the minute. And who's going to win out? Can Palu possibly carry Team Liquid over the line like this?
Well, that's what effectively it looks like. Because obviously, you know, he's kind of the only one that's really causing carnage on the server at the minute. He's invested into a gigantic backpack. He has placed each and every one of them quite carefully inside, and he is really trying to carry them through into this game. But at what point does he go down early? At what point does a stray bullet land into his cranium and take him down whilst he's trying to process a thought into the round and stop him from being able to really go off on a tear? Because that's all that's required. If no one else on the side of Liquid is stepping up to the mark, it is going to be a struggle. For NIP, they've made some changes here in terms of the operator pick. Psycho donning the Cali, coming out on DJ Cali. Let's see what she'll get up to, and if she'll be able to be a bit of a sniper with a hell of a scope and take down a Team Liquid member or two into the round.
There goes the Valkyrie cam to begin with, and we can see she is back in that long range scope there. Psycho just looking to pick up an early kill now. Sexy Kick with diffuser in hand. Looks like he's just being fed a little bit of information. Out comes the potential toss, and that is unfortunate there. That could have been successful if that sailed far enough along, but just catching that steel joist in between the two floors. Obviously a solid building job being done here on Cafe Jackie.
Mate, it is going to be a bit unfortunate. Obviously the double-sided tape there proving to be a little bit of a double-sided agent and benefiting the other team. But when push comes to shove, we see the main man, Muzi, getting a bit monstrous with his plays. Bold, confidence there, surging through him as he peeks out, looking for a second frag off the initial encounter. Kamikaze testing his luck as well. Ooh, bullets bouncing back, nearly hitting, but in the end, it will be the shot from Psycho that shuts down Nesk as we see him drop down to the ground. A single sniper shot whizzing straight through and finishing him off. So it's a 5 versus 2 in the grand scheme of the round. This is looking like it is going to be an NIP shutdown to end Liquid here on Cafe and push it through to the clubhouse. And that's exactly the way it feels like it's going, as it's all down to PSK and Palu. It would almost have to be a Palu ace once again for Liquid to get this round back on track. That's how it feels like it's starting to shape up. A couple of players are low on the side of NIP and PSK, slowly making his move up the stairwell, but he's spotted and he is bludgeoned, left in a pool of blood as Muzi will massacre him and leave him lifeless on the ground. Palu detecting the peek from the rear, fires out the pre-fire shots, expecting the push, but they're not going to chase. They need to get that diffuser down and they have a huge advantage into the round. They do peek him one by one. He's actually armed with the shotty as well. Gets close contact him, but takes a bullet to the side. They'll shoot down, death from above. The hurty verti is going to be found from Pino. And Palu, you might have had 14 frags, but you can't solo carry a matchup like this in the major. We need to see the rest of Liquid waking up to him because there is a third and final map. NIP, they have wrung them to their core there and take us through to that decider.
Well, in an interesting mirror image of what we saw between Team 1 and FaZe Clan, we have Team Liquid come out and take the first map 7-5, just as FaZe Clan did.